Hey there, Freaktoyz Army. Thrash here. Today's interview is with Steven Kostanski, and we just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up. Steven does make horror films, and because of that, we do talk about some darker things and some violent stuff. So because of that, viewer discretion is advised. Now, if that's the kind of thing that you're into, please stay tuned and listen to me talk to Steven Kostanski about really great bad movies. Hello and welcome to Thrash Talk, brought to you by Freaktoyz Collectibles. My name is Thrash, but you can call me Audrey because we're friends, and today I'm lucky enough to have my favorite modern director on the show. You might know him from Father's Day, you might know him from BioCop, you might know him from his most recent film, Frankie Frico. Today, I'm here with Steven Kostanski. Steven, thank you so much for allowing me to interview you today. This is a huge honor.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. Very, very excited to chat with you today, Thrash.
I want to start off with a big question that I've had since around 2011.
Oh God, is there going to be a BioCop feature film?
That's literally my first question.
I mean, what's funny is that I did have a BioCop feature sort of in development at one point that evolved into Psycho Gorman. Uh, one thing one thing that I realized very early on with BioCop is that he's kind of like an SNL sketch, and you know how those movies turn out. Not particularly great, where it's like a joke that lands awesome in a 5 minute window, maybe isn't meant for 90 minutes.
Sure,
And
sure.
so, yeah, at least that was my attitude, like, yeah, over a decade ago. And that's why I like the idea of him showing up in movies, causing problems, and just being chaotic and then disappearing. Uh, but having said that, I, as I've grown and evolved as a filmmaker, I feel like I've thought of new ways, new angles to approach that character that might be interesting. He is like one of my favorite things because he's just such a absurd concept that I just want more of him doing stuff, whether or not it's in a 90-minute feature film. Not sure about that, but he'll be back at some point in some capacity. So I can promise that much to you.
Well, I do want to remind you that that was also your attitude towards Father's Day, and we've seen what happened with that. You didn't originally want to turn that fake trailer into a film, right? Like Lloyd had to directly, like, essentially beg you guys to do it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah, he begged us with 10,000 whole dollars. That's how committed he was to us making that movie. Maybe the lowest amount ever paid for that level of film. That amount of movie that he got for that price is pretty insane. But I find I'm saying that about every movie I make now. So,
Father's Day was the one, and I'm just going to go ahead and bring this up now. I have a long history of Father's Day. I'm a gigantic VHS collector, or at least I used to be, and Father's Day on VHS was my holy grail tape for the longest time. I always said if I found Father's Day on VHS, I could be done. I didn't need to find any other tapes. About a month before I left Grindhouse to move up here to Wisconsin because Grindhouse's brick and mortar was closing, I had a customer come in and gift me Father's Day
oh,
on
wicked.
VHS. So it ended my
Well, there you
VHS
go.
journey. That isn't where it stops. Currently today, I'm at Freaktoyz Collectibles. Whenever I moved to Sheboygan, Wisconsin, where we are located, I originally needed to make rapport here. I knew that I wanted to work here because it was a lot like my other job, and I needed to come in and buy something. And I bought the 4 disc Blu-ray edition of Father's Day to make my introduction to everybody here. So you have some key points in my life with just one of your films.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, a lot of that credit has to go to the other Astron guys like Adam, Matt, Connor, and Jeremy. I mean, it was very much a group effort making that film, but specifically, I think Adam bore the brunt of, uh, let's just say, the brunt of Troma's wrath in making that movie, and yeah, probably wouldn't exist without him. Uh, Basically eating shit on a daily basis. So yeah, the credit really should go to the other guys. I'm just a supporting player in the Father's Day universe,
An
in my
amazing
opinion.
physical comedy actor Adam Brooks is. I love that you cast him so much. His reactions to things bring me with so much joy. I'm reminded of the scene in Psycho Gorman where you hang on the shot of the ball blasting in to the living room and then smashing the TV and Adam sitting in the chair and his full reaction to everything and how long that took. Like his physical
Yeah.
comedy helps really bring me into your films. And that actually leads me to another question there. With all of those Astron 6 guys, whenever you're helping write that script, are you writing characters specifically for like for Adam and Matthew Kennedy and Connor and everybody, or do they just happen to find the roles that they like best?
At a certain point, I was writing for them, at least with my own like personal projects, like my solo directing efforts. Um, but there has been cases where I've just slotted them in where I could, because I just want to squeeze them into every movie I make. Um, like for example, Leprechaun Returns. Adam does a voice cameo that I believe is uncredited. He voices the mailman that gets his head stuck in the mailbox and gets smashed. Uh, yeah, he just did that for free, just for funsies, and we slipped it in there. But for stuff like Psycho Gorman, I was thinking specifically, like I want Adam, to play Greg, the dad, and I wrote it for him specifically. And Frankie Frico is kind of the ultimate example of me being like, I want to build a movie around Connor. How can I do that?
It
Um,
plays to him
but
perfectly,
yeah,
by the way. I love it.
well, thank you. Yeah, I'm very proud of that movie, and the movie exists purely because of how hilarious Connor is. I think it's just a vehicle for him to be ridiculous. And yeah, like and also Matt Kennedy voicing Frankie and Adam playing his boss, Mr. Beekler. Um, I just like I'm always looking for an excuse just to hang out with my friends on set. So that's how that panned out. And I don't want to spoil anything, but Deathstalker has kind of that same mentality as well. So you'll see.
I love to hear that. That's makes me anticipate it even more. Your early work with Astron 6 is absolutely amazing. You shot Manborg in a garage using trash. The effects in
Yeah,
that is they're insane, and it's a film that I often have to show people because I don't feel that you can believe what the film even is in scope without actually seeing the film. It's just that big. Now, in that, I know you do a lot of the production and the makeup effects and stuff like that. Do you also write that into the scripts, or do you go into the scripts knowing that, hey, I want this kind of creature here, so I'm going to write like a segment for that, or does that also come organically?
I think it's kind of a per situation sort of deal, per project. Like something like Frankie, I was definitely trying to think budget conscious, and be like, well, this is all mostly taking place in one house. How do I keep that interesting? And I'm designing effects and things around that. I do think, though, that I am just overly ambitious in general as a filmmaker and as a writer. Uh, and I just want to make things huge, even if I don't have the resources to it. I mean, we just delivered Deathstalker, and it was the exact same scenario that I've been in every movie where I'm like in my basement building miniatures and stuff and being like, how did I end up here? Where it's like me and Adam are shooting stuff on my pool table. Uh, so it's I, I think I just dive in head first sometimes. And I don't think about what it's actually going to take to make like an arena where a bunch of guys fight monster men, like in Manborg, like that whole sequence. I'm just like, I'm thinking about is like, well, what do I want to see? And then I go from there. And I'm maybe not being super practical about like, is that something I can do? Or maybe do I dial it back a bit? Because I want to make the biggest, craziest thing possible, whether I have the resources to do it or not. Like, I don't care. I just want to make I want to make big spectacle movies, even though I have no money to do it. So yeah, that's just where I always end up, where it's dumpster diving to make these things happen, and just using what I have around me to execute whatever crazy vision I have for these movies.
I find your ability to make something out of seemingly nothing is incredibly admirable. You're an artist in more ways than just one, because I'll look at a scene and Manborg, which is a film that I've seen 15, 20, 30 times. You know, I show it to a bunch of people. And as I'm watching it, I'll start being like, that's a turkey pan or something along those lines. Like I see little things in there that I'm just like, wow, you disguise that well. And it's taken me this many rewatches to even realize that that's what you've done.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say I had a lot of the like plastic ends of poster tubes on hand for Manborg, because you see, there's like sets, miniature sets in that are just like entirely built around me pretending one of those is like a fan or something. Um, so yeah, there was like a few things I had a lot of. I had the ends of poster tubes. I had the because I was working at Movie Village in Winnipeg at the time, and so I was working the cash register, and the like plastic ends of
Like the
the
receipt?
receipt roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like it was like a little plastic roll, and the ones that we had specifically were like a little more ornate than usual. So I would get everyone to save them for me, and I would take home a box every night, and I would chop them up or chop them in half. I'd use them as barrels, pipes, and things. Uh, yeah, I find every movie I make, I end up wherever I'm working, wherever I'm uh, yeah, usually like working or just wherever I'm around, I'm keeping an eye out for like what is like the thing that's getting chucked out that I can take and then put like glue onto a costume or something. So it was the poster tube ends and the ends of the receipt rolls from Movie Village.
I want to touch on one more Astron 6 thing. I don't want to harp on all of it, but some people say Astron 6 is dead. Some people say Astron 6 is on hiatus. If you look at the X account, can you comment on that? Do we have another film with possibly Jeremy and stuff in the mix to look forward to, or
I mean, anything is possible. I can't say yes or no to that. I think we're all living our own lives. Like, most of us have families now. We all have partners and jobs and responsibilities. The heyday of Astron 6 was such a weird, perfect storm of us just having time and proximity to each other to be like, let's just do this constantly. So, yeah, like 2008 to, well, like 2010, 11, our output was pretty insane because that's all we were doing. Everybody, like, we were all in university. We're all, in my case, like, I was living at home, so I was paying rent, going to university. I had an abundance of free time, so I was able to just focus on making movies and make something like Manborg. Like, I don't feel like I could do that now because it's just such a time intensive thing.
right? That was
So
like 2 years on Manborg, right?
it was three years. Because yeah, I started 2008, 2009 ish, and I mean it wasn't really released until uh end of 2011. So I feel like all in it was about 3 years of time. So yeah, that's like a roundabout way of saying I don't know what the future of Astron 6 is. I don't think it ever will die because it'll live on in the hearts of fans everywhere.
I love that answer. That is absolutely the truth. I on my old battle vest. Unfortunately, I do not have it on this one because the old battle vest got junked. I had a custom-made Astron 6 patch that used to sit over my pocket. So, yeah, it
Oh
was.
hell yeah.
We were big fans. Big fans. Any plans to release No Sleep, No Surrender?
uh I don't know at this point because it keeps coming up. I know in the group because we have like an Astron group chat, there was talk of putting it out, but then I think like Adam's computer that had all the raw footage, like the hard drive burnt out or something, and so we like lost access to the movie. So all we have is like an unfinished cut that's like a Vimeo link or something. So I don't think there's ever going to be a proper finished version because I believe all the footage is gone, but there is a version of it floating around that maybe we'll just throw online at some point. Uh, but it's a classic Astron 6 thing where we bring it up, everybody debates it, nobody like we don't come to any sort of agreement, and then we just move on with the conversation to something else. So I can say it exists, it's floating around. I'll check in and
All
see
right.
where that's at, but I don't think there's any forward movement on that, unfortunately.
When I found out that I was going to be able to interview you, I reached out to my friend Christian. Christian is also one of your biggest fans. He was
Oh, awesome.
ecstatic, and I figured that I would go ahead and field a question from him to you, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
Christian wants to know if you could have Psycho Gorman cross over with any movie monster, who would it be, and who do you think would win?
I mean, I would love a because it was partially inspired by the film, uh, if he teamed up with Mechanical Violator Hokkaider, I think that would be pretty sick. Because I'd love to see PG on a motorcycle riding next to Hokkaider. I think that would be pretty sweet. Um, I feel like he'd fit into the Guyver universe as
Oh,
well,
God, yeah.
pretty well. Um, or I don't know, friggin' Duke Nukem. I just I'm trying to just think of like what's an absurd character that he could team up with where he's kind of the straight man to the wackier character. Um, yeah, Duke Nukem seems like a good one.
All right, Duke Nukem it
Or
is. Get
or
80 Shankar on the line here.
yeah, Duke Nukem, or actually no, I changed my mind. I wanted to team up with the Trickster from Brain Scan. That's what I want.
Like that movie is another one of my favorites. God, you rule. I'm so glad you brought him up. I That movie needs to have a resurgence. It's so weird that it doesn't, given its subject matter, with like the playing with the idea of virtual reality and all of that. It's so weird that that film hasn't had some kind of underground second life yet.
I know. I love weird '90s, uh, confused by computer technology movies, where yeah, it's like Lawnmower Man, where it's like, well, what if you're also in like a gyroscope thing to go into VR? Like, I love that era because nobody really knows what the hell's going on, so they're just making it up, and like the advancing of technology has just become this fantasy concept where anything is possible. And yeah, Brain Scan is another good example of that. I also love when movies don't understand how video games work, and
Yes.
like the interface will be like talking directly to the person. Like adjacent to that, like I love when people turn on their computers in old movies and their computers like, "Hello, David." Like that kind of shit is my favorite. I wish I put some of that in Frankie Frico, maybe in a sequel. But yeah, Brain Scan is a fun one I like to revisit, and the Trickster is such a weird design of a character too. Uh, it's very '90s. Like, how do we make the next Freddy Krueger logic with everything that's going on with that guy?
We make him kind of look like Sammy Kerr from Trick or Treat, but not exactly. Give him the big
Yeah,
red
not
hair.
exactly. Yeah, and you can tell that they're like, he needs there's something big and bold, like that'll stand out. He needs a good silhouette, and they're like, oh, what if he had like a crazy mohawk? And yeah, I don't know. It's just a lot of strange choices in a strange movie.
All right. So as we are here with Freaktoyz Collectibles, I always like to touch on hobby aspects. And it's an assumption, but given the movies that you make, I'm sure you have a fair amount of cool and hobby special interest. You're really into blending things into films such as Tokusatsu, cursed commercials. What are you currently collecting? I'm sure you're collecting something.
Well, I mean, we did our second trip to Japan back in February, so on this follow-up trip that we did, I was really diving into like their budget bins, like getting stuff for like $2-3 that I could find. So that was a lot of fun, just getting random like tokusatsu figures and things from various shows. I just like getting stuff that's like bold and fun looking. I mean, I've got my shelf of toys back here. I'm trying to see if any of these are recent ones. Uh, but I do have also a really good RoboCop collection that I'm pretty
Okay.
happy with. That's or no, they're all up there. They're all up there in the back. But yeah, I got a few RoboCops while I was over in Japan. So yeah, I don't know. I love variety. Like I have a whole shelf of all the toys that I got in Japan that I have set up, and yeah, I like just staring at it. I like being overwhelmed by stuff. I mean, it's pretty common, like collector logic. You know, you're kind of as you age, you gradually turn into Smaug the dragon, where you're just like on your pile of stuff, and you're like, keep away from my stuff. Um, so yeah, as far as like a specific like lane I'm after, it's like not really. I just like buying robots and monsters, and we were talking a lot about Swamp Thing in the shop the other day, so I'm wondering if maybe I'm gonna go down a Swamp Thing rabbit hole. I do have one Swamp Thing toy over here still in the package, but I would like to get more. I would like to also get that Doctor Arcane toy where he's got the spider on his head. Uh, because that's such a weird design. I've always wanted to like make a creature in a movie that looks like that. It's like a guy in a suit, but then he just has like a big thing on his head. So yeah.
That's really cool. Whenever it comes to Swamp Thing, we get a fair bit of that stuff in. My favorite current Swamp Thing toy that I've seen isn't even a toy. It's a mask, and the entire packaging is green packaging, so like it's biodegradable, and the entire mask is also made of like earth-friendly materials. So they made like
Oh,
a
cool.
Swamp Thing mask that would be approved by Swamp Thing. I thought it was pretty neat.
That's that Swamp Thing from Return of Swamp Thing would give that classic thumbs up too.
Nice shout out to Jim Wynorski. I haven't talked to you in a
Oh,
while, but you're super cool.
oh, oh, the best. The yeah, I love that guy. Return of Swamp Thing, one of the best movies. Deathstalker 2, obviously,
Obviously.
amazing.
My
Yeah.
favorite Jim Wynorski film is Hard to Die, which is literally Die Hard meets Sorority House Massacre in a high rise, and it hasn't been released off
Oh shit.
VHS.
We put that on at the shop the other day because it was on Tubi. Shout out to Tubi,
Shout out to
uh,
Tubi.
my my favorite streamer. That's where I watch all the crap. Was watching Snake Eater 3: His Law the other day. Great movie. Anyways, but I digress. Um, sorry, what's the title? Is Hard to Die?
Hard to
Is what it's called?
Die. Yes.
Yes, because we put stuff on in the background while we're working, so we put that on, and it was one of those movies. Every time I turned to the TV, it just got more confusing. So, like, what was the premise that like it's a bunch of lingerie models are like
Yeah.
staying overnight in a high rise, and there's a killer or something?
So they're staying overnight in a high rise where one of the floors is a lingerie business where they just have the product there for some reason. There's also a shower for some reason, and
Yeah,
a cursed object gets shipped to them on mistake, like by mistake, and it gets opened, and then like a soul possesses people and tries to kill them, and they think that this bumbling handyman is the killer the entire time. So it's like
yes,
this horror comedy exploitation Die Hard ripoff that makes no sense.
yep. It yeah. The movie didn't go over super great with all the ladies in the shop. I will say that. Um, so that's why we have to balance out our viewing with like we'll do that and then we'll do like a lot of reality TV uh to just make sure everybody gets what they want. But yeah, there's a lot of times where I turned to the TV and it was just like a bunch of lingerie models standing around arguing or holding guns and I was like, yeah, this looks like a good movie.
Yeah, it's trash, but it's my kind of trash, and I like it. You know.
Wynorski is great at making trash that is palatable and is somehow, even though like it is pure exploitation, it's still inoffensive to me. Like there's just an innocence to it that I really appreciate. There's nothing, I don't know, he never gets mean. It's always lighthearted. And I really appreciate that. I feel like that type of movie should have that sort of tone. It never needs to sink into like kind of like rapey craziness. Like, you know, you compare like Deathstalker to Deathstalker 2, and I find Wynorski has a better handle of like what the tone of that type of movie should be.
You can tell that he was friends with Andy Sedaris. Like
Yeah.
they very much had that same kind of je ne sais quoi about them, where it's like, yeah, there are scantily clad women, but I'll put a scantily clad man or two in there too, and we'll treat it all. It's all fun and games for everybody.
Yeah. I would love to be a fly on the wall at that hangout and Andy Sidaris and Jim Wynorski, like them having beers. bet those would be some good conversations.
I found out recently that Amir Shervin was also friends with Andy Sedaris, which completely checks out. Amir was the guy who made Samurai Cop and Hollywood Cop and Killing American Style and all those films.
It feels like he's trying to be Andy Sidaris and kind of like really fumbling the ball in a hilarious way.
Hey, he was one of the greatest filmmakers. I think he was in Iran. I think he was Iranian before he moved here. He was known as one of their greatest filmmakers. And then he comes here and he puts out Hollywood Cop. And everybody's like, eh? But I love that. I love a movie with heart, you know, and I feel like he always put his everything into those films. So a lot of people like to call him bad. I call him alternative cinema. It is what it is.
Yeah, this concept of like good and bad movies to me has never really jived with it because yeah, I love Samurai Cop. I'll watch the hell out of that movie. Does that make it bad though?
I
Oh,
Heart New
nice.
York
Oh,
Ninja.
New York Ninja, awesome movie. We put that on at least 4 times at the shop because we were just having so much fun with it. So it's like I watch these things and I get a lot of real pure enjoyment out of them. I'm not just like punching down and being like, "Oh, this is bad." I'm like, there is some kind of weird magic going on here where the clunky awkwardness of everything is just making it so much more charming and fun to me. Like I'll watch Samurai Cop before I watch like a more serious prestige film, you know? Like I like that kind of energy in my movie watching.
Absolutely. And I like it even more when they're like unfazed and it's not a situation where they're trying to make a bad movie, like a difference between Samurai Cop and Samurai Cop 2.
Well, yeah, it's the Deadly Prey and Deadly Prey 2 syndrome of like, "Oh, let's do that again." And it's like, "No, you don't there is genuine magic to that, you can't capture it."
David I. Pryor, he just went, he was an extra on Logan's Run and just went, I could do this and walked off set and made Sledgehammer.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's crazy how people are inspired. Like, and he just continued to make the movies that he wanted to make. He made a production company out of it. AIP is great. Action International is one of my
Oh, yeah.
favorites because it's full of the what some people call garbage, but I like to watch David A. Pryor run around in a woods, having people shoot guns and blow things up. You know,
I mean, Deadly Prey is definitely up there as far as, like, one of my favorite kind of trashy movies. It's part of it's just, like, that movie, the momentum of it runs on its hilarious theme song, the, like, insanely simplistic but catchy theme song. Uh, but, yeah, I love that movie, I could watch it any day of the week.
Did you know that Freaktoyz ships internationally? That's right. The family owned brick and mortar from Sheboygan, Wisconsin can meet your toy needs no matter where you live. Do you like Star Wars? We've got that. Migos? We've got those too. Motu? More than you can even imagine. Our vast stock of vintage and modern collectibles are waiting for you. Maybe you've seen us on various YouTube channels, from Pixel Dan to Ethan Page to even the very one you're watching right now, and found yourself interested in our stock. Well, now you can browse digitally. Take a trip back down memory lane and revisit your youth at Freaktoyz Collectibles, 520 North 8th Street in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, or visit us online at freaktoyz.com. That's FREAKTOYZ.com. Now let's get back to that interview.
I want to touch a little bit more on Tokusatsu. So, Psycho Gorman is clearly very inspired by Tokusatsu and anime. You see a lot of things in there. I believe in the very beginning of the Crazy Ball scene, there's even an homage musically to the Power Rangers theme.
Yes.
Is there like any other specific Tokusatsu projects that inspired? I know you mentioned Hokkaido, but was there anything else?
Hokkaido really Hokkaido was the big one, just because I like the imagery of, like, the kind of dark, brooding, like, essentially villain character being your protagonist, and then the, like, white angelic, typically hero characters being your villains. It was that flip was part of the inspiration for PG. I was like, I love the idea of, like, on paper, the good guys being the bad guys and the bad guy being the good guy. But, oh, like, so much Japanese cinema went into that movie. It was really just my like dumping ground for all that stuff, and also just American interpretations of that. Like Guyver Dark Hero is a
Yeah.
huge one for me. One of my favorites. A movie that does not get talked about enough.
That's a great David Hayter role too. Nobody ever really even
Oh,
brings that up.
oh, he's great in it. Everybody's great in it. I think it's like, yes, it's low budget and there's a lot of people like standing around tents talking, but when the movie goes and when there's monsters fighting on screen, it's amazing. It's like the end fight is one of my favorite end fights in a movie ever. And also does the gimmick that I love and I try to integrate into all my movies of like the bad guy has multiple stages. Like you fight one version of the bad guy, and then he changes and becomes like a super shredder version of himself. So yeah, the Guyver Zonoid at the end versus Guyver is just an all-time great fight for me.
That movie also, like, in my opinion, completely eclipses the first one. The first film, people like to talk about it because it has Mark Hamill in it. But as somebody who's watched like the Bio Boosted Armor Guyver and and take a lot of the media, I feel that Dark Hero is way more in line with what Guyver actually is.
Yes.
And so it's a much better introduction to the Guyver than showing somebody the one with Mark Hamill, and even though it does have the cool Dr. East cameo from Jeffrey Combs.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the first one, I've watched it a bunch. Every time I watch it, I'm like, this is going to be the time where I love it, and it never quite hits for me. I like lots of it. There's parts that I really enjoy, and the creature work is great, but it's just a very meandering movie for what it is. Whereas Dark Hero feels more like the script is tighter. It feels way more straightforward. Uh, like I feel like it has real momentum. It's actually building to something significant. Um, whereas, yeah, with the first one, I find myself checking my watch, uh, like every 10 minutes, being like, "Are we gonna something gonna happen? Is there gonna be an actual fight?" And I guess it's like that post Ninja Turtles thing. Was it after or was it before? I don't
It
actually
was it
know.
was after, yeah. It was Screaming Mad George got that job. I think it was right after Ninja Turtles.
Because it feels very much like, oh, we need to kind of make this kid friendly, but not at the same time. Like it's a very confused movie in terms of like who the audience is. It
Yes.
gets very silly and really undermines itself, I find, whereas Dark Hero plays it straight, and I think it's way more charming and entertaining because it takes the material seriously, and that's why it works.
Because Guyver itself takes itself incredibly seriously. It's an incredibly like dark and bleak kind of story. There's hardly any humor. It's hard to call it
Yeah.
ultra violence when something like Genocyber exists, but it's still very close to the idea of anime ultra violence at times. I mean, he rips his chest open to do his main attack. There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's all body horror related, and it's wonderful that that second film is just like, yep, same tone. More of it
Yeah.
could have been shot at night, but still, same tone.
Same tone, and I don't know, it just makes it land better when you feel like they're actually taking the material seriously. And I think that speaks to a lot of tokusatsu stuff in general, is that like while they have humor and jokey stuff, I also feel like the mythology, the baseline story of whatever it is you're watching is there's like real reverence for it and respect for it. It's not winking at the camera, which I feel like the first Guyver is doing a bit of that, where it's like, oh, isn't this wacky? And it's like, I don't want that. I want to be the one as an audience member that says, oh, this is getting kind of wacky. I don't need the movie
Right.
to tell me that. Uh, so yeah, I think wackiness just comes naturally. You just have to tell the story with a certain level of like seriousness and reverence.
I absolutely agree with that. So you brought up whenever you were doing the final stages of the boss in Psycho Goreman, you wanted to make sure there were those multiple stages. I'm assuming that means you play video games. Is there any specific video games that you're playing right now, or any kind of series that you're diving into?
I'm like kind of limited with my time for games. I have so many games I could be playing right now, but I don't really have time to tackle any of them. I'm trying to replay Doom 2016. I'm a huge Doom fan, and it's pretty well known at this point that Doom is the adaptation I want to be making. That's if my whole career built to me making a Doom movie and I had to retire after it, I would be totally fine because I love that franchise. I grew up on it. Uh, so Doom 2016, a little bit of that. I was just playing this morning, gave myself a little treat and played a little bit of The World Is Not Enough on
Ooh.
N64,
Hmm.
which pretty underrated game, gotta say. It's like for a late in N64's life cycle game. Graphics are pretty good. Gameplay is pretty fun. Um, yeah, I'm enjoying that a lot. And then, yeah, I have a PS5 that's basically sitting untouched, and I have the RoboCop game still in the package. I need to crack that open and play it at some point. So yeah,
I installed that last night, actually. I tried to play it on PS5, and I have dumb hands, and I can't aim first person shooter wise on a controller. So I
yeah,
decided to buy it on Steam, and I installed it on my PC last night, and I'm having so much fun with it. I tried to give it a go whenever it had originally came out, but I think it just got really busy with something and didn't get to
yeah.
it. I hear they got Peter's coming back for the sequel to do some voice
Oh,
work.
they're doing another one.
Yeah, we got a sequel that's happening, so that's going to be real
Awesome.
fun. I like the idea of taking these properties and making faithful video games that are continuations of them. Rockstar did it
Yes.
really well with like the Warriors back in the PS2 days, and it felt like nobody really moved forward with doing that until this new RoboCop game came out. Well, I guess they
I
came
mean,
out with that Terminator game prior too. That was like
I
really
like that
really.
Terminator game. That Terminator Resistance, I think, is really awesome, and to me, that's the sequel I wanted. I would argue the same for the Ghostbusters game. I really like that game. Uh,
I like it more
but
than the
yeah,
Ghostbusters sequel I got. Yes.
yes, I wish that they would do that with more franchises. I'm thinking though, like based on the success of that Indiana Jones game, which I hear is awesome, that they're gonna hopefully do more of that. I think that's the way to do these legacy sequels. Don't drag out like 70-plus-year-old actors and make them pretend to be action heroes. Like
Right.
just get them to voice the characters or just make a game in that universe and just yeah, tell a fun story like which apparently this Indiana Jones game does.
If we go off the Indiana Jones game, that's not even Harrison Ford. That's Troy Baker just doing the best
Yeah,
Harrison Ford impression. So we don't even have to get the original actor. I would say absolutely try to seek them first. And if they don't want to do it, find somebody that they give their blessing
yeah,
to.
totally.
That's what they did for Michael J. Fox in the Telltale Back to the Future games. Is they found a voice actor that sounded a lot like Marty McFly, but they had specifically Michael J. Fox help them find that voice actor so that he would put a stamp
Yeah,
of approval on it. And I like that attempt at it because at some point they also get too old to voice these characters. Realistically, a
yeah,
gruff Harrison Ford isn't going to like look that young and sound that old. It's going to be a big disconnect.
yes. Well, I mean, you just have to point to the opening sequence in Dial of Destiny, and it's old Harrison Ford voice coming out of a 40-year-old Harrison Ford, and it doesn't feel right to me. So yeah, I would
Right.
rather just get somebody that sounds appropriate, or if they're of an age where they still sound good, try and get the original actors. Like that's why I love that Ghostbusters game. Really is like it's got the whole team,
Hmm.
everybody's there, so you can't doesn't get any better than that, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And that's one of the ones that recently got, if I remember correctly, a nice HD re-release. Like they did a nice
Yeah.
remaster of it, so it's available on modern consoles. I do recommend everybody check that out. Another thing I want to touch on because we had a little bit of a conversation about it. What Resident Evil is your favorite?
Uh, I mean, I've done this ranking a few times now. I haven't played all the games, so this isn't like a perfect ranking by any stretch. But for nostalgia's sake, I love the original Resident Evil 2. Uh, Getting that on N64 back in 2000 was pretty amazing. Scared the crap out of me. I'm a big fan of the remake of 1. That game also scared the crap out of me. Is really really effective and proves that the like fixed camera angle, I think, even in with better hardware, can still work. Um, and I really like 7 and 8. I think I like Village a bit more than 7. Uh, It's just there's just so much game in Resident Evil Village. Like there's just so much that I played it and then I immediately played it through again because I was like, there's just so much going on. I want to just sink into this world a bit longer. It's so wacky and weird, but still quintessentially Resident Evil to me. It's like it diverts from the formula while also somehow still being the exact same spirit as classic Resident Evil. So, yeah,
Yeah, I think that 8 is a better game for me as well, just because it plays more into a little bit of the wackiness. Some of that is in 7, like when Ethan's hand gets stabbed and like ripped open and it just kind of heals back later, and you're like, oh, that's kind of
yeah,
goofy. But then in 8, they just throw everything at the wall for you. They just look how
yeah,
crazy we can be. And I think that really helped. I hate to say the word resurrect the Resi series, but it
yes,
helped re-uplift the series, and now we might have a competent film coming out because I love Zach.
yeah,
Barbarian was great. I'm a big Whitest Kid You Know fan. There's a big asterisk there. A lot of that is not humor
yeah.
that we can touch on much today, but I was a fan of it when it was coming out. I'm really looking forward to his new film, and now that he has the reins to Resident Evil, I want to see more of my favorite directors getting those video game movies. So I'd love to see you get Doom. I just I want to see people that actually care about these things take these reins instead of some studio exec that's like, I can make money, you know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I am like fully open to whatever video game a studio would want to throw at me. Uh, like, there's so many properties out there that are just buried and not forgotten, but like I think could use a resurrection similar to Resident Evil. And yeah, I guess part of the issue is, especially when you're talking about like older video games, in the digging that I've done, the rights get kind of muddled as companies, like a Bandai absorbs Namco and Nintendo absorbs that. Like things get a little there becomes layers where it's hard to actually get like classic properties, like
Yeah.
you know th- something like a Streets of Rage or a like Altered Beast would be awesome, but I feel like there's a lot of hoops to jump through to make that happen.
Can you imagine a Streets of Rage movie that's like The Warriors, but it's following like Axel and like he's just
Yeah,
trying to get home? That would be so cool. I find that trope that they used in The Warriors isn't used enough. I also figured that would make a really good Jet Set Radio game or movie if they ever decided to do that. Like the GGs trying to make their way back to their spot, like Warriors style.
yeah, or even a little bit of what's that? Is it Emilio Estevez that's in it? Judgment Night? Am I misremembering who the cast is? But, like, even that has a little bit of that vibe of, like, guys out of their element just trying to get home.
Just trying to get
Uh,
home.
but, yeah, I think when you especially for video game adaptations, it's, like, pinpointing what the inspiration was and then going back to it, like the cinematic inspirations, and then, uh, kind of mapping your premise over that blueprint, I think is the right way to go. It seems like a lot of video game movies, it's like you get so overwhelmed with the lore that they don't know how to that like they don't know how to navigate and how to just tell a relatively simple story in these universes. And I think it's possible. So
I think that George Romero would have done a great job with that Resident Evil movie if it would have come out. I recently watched that documentary that they put out on that,
oh
and
yeah,
I feel that that's one of the biggest cinematic misses that we've ever had. He seemed perfect for
yeah.
the job. And the
I was
commercials that he
excited for
directed.
that movie. I was excited for it back in the day, and I read that script, and I was like, I'd watch this movie.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, it really sucks that it didn't happen.
And I'm still holding out hope that we might get a John Carpenter Dead Space movie at some point before, he unfortunately passes, because he said he would love to do that. And I think that that's another incredibly big missed opportunity. If you don't let him make that film, you're leaving money on the table.
Oh yeah. Well, Dead Space is another one that I love and would be all over trying to make because it's just all the things that I like. But if Carpenter were to do it, that'd be totally awesome. I mean, I think that guy's got to have one more good movie in him.
Oh, yeah.
I just, I just want him to make something. I don't even care if it's like the simplest, smallest movie imaginable. I just want him to make one more movie that he's like passionate about, and and just kind of leaves us with that.
I
I
don't
don't
want
want
him
it
to
to
go out
end
on the
on
ward.
the word.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want him to go out on the ward because he wasn't even happy when he was making the ward. So it's one of those situations where you're kind of like, this he didn't exactly go out on top. He plays so many video games that I feel that it could just be a video game movie. He would know exactly what to do with that. He could even give me a sequel, a sequel to Big Trouble in Little China would be great. I know it was a flop, and he talks about how it made no money, but it is such a beloved cult classic nowadays. I think that a sequel would definitely do well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I honestly anything at this point. If he just finally, I feel like if he finally made a western, that would be a that would round out his career, I think, appropriately because it's clear that he's always wanted to make one and never had the opportunity. And I think nowadays audiences are a little more into them.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I would love to see him do like his like a Rio Bravo style movie. Uh, Something contained and small in the Western genre space would be cool.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. I would like to see him, even if it was more expansive, even. But I feel that even filming an expansive western's a lot harder nowadays because where do you find the areas to do it and things along
Yeah.
those lines. So I want to wind down a little bit, and I just want to ask a simple question again, going back to your writing. I've noticed that you have a really good knack for finding a way to mix humor into incredibly dark situations. Is there anything that has inspired you to be able to do that? Like anything to help bring that out of you, or has it just naturally been there?
I think real life inspires me to do that because, as you navigate this crazy world that we're in, uh, awful shit happens constantly. And do you just like fall to your knees and start crying, or do you make a joke out of it and keep moving? I feel like that is, that's kind of what's kept me going through life. And so it weasels its way into my movies that I make. Like dark humor without being mean is something I'm a fan of. And a character like Biocop is a good example of that. A guy that just really wants to die but can't,
Yep.
and the people around him being blissfully ignorant to that and thinking like, "Oh, this guy's a real cool hero. What a good cop!" And he's sticking a gun in his mouth. So that kind of stuff makes me laugh. Uh, Feels appropriate to the world that we're living in now. So yeah, I can't help but sneak it into everything that I make. I mean, even in Frankie Frico, like it wasn't Biocop, but the character of Crunch definitely has a Biocop arc of, he just ends up being tortured and mutilated and is still alive and kind of fine, but not really at the same time.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, kind of one of my favorite tropes. People suffering horribly but not dying.
I do have a question about Psycho Gorman since you wrote it. When they knocked over the guy that Psycho Gorman had put into eternal suffering and his head
Yep.
burst open and he goes, "No, my art!" Did he die or was he still laying there in eternal suffering in your mind? Like, was he just there in
I
pieces now?
I think I do think at that point he died. He shattered, like he was kind of frozen in stasis, and him shattering like effectively killed him. So I'd like to think that he went to a better place. I'll give that character a happy ending, if you can call it that. Um, yeah, because to me the joke is more about something that PG made getting broken,
Yeah.
and less about the guys suffering. So.
All right, Stephen. Well, I do want to thank you again for agreeing to do this interview. And I know that you said that you love to be surrounded by just stuff and you like to be overwhelmed. So we are the largest, well, maybe not the largest toy store in Wisconsin. I can't corroborate that, so don't sue me if I'm wrong. But we're giant. We have a lot of stuff. We'd love to have you come in at some point. So if you ever find yourself in the area, we'd love to have you stop in. Before we let you go, I do want to open up the floor. Do you have anything that you want to promote or anything you want to say to the people before we end the interview?
That I run where people want to just kind of follow along as I'm working on my projects, but also it's an archive for past projects. So I'm posting behind the scenes photos, videos. Eventually, I'm going to get to doing like interviews and stuff with people. people in the industry that I work with. So it's called Kostanski's Crypt. I think it's just, patreon.com/Kostanski's Crypt. If you want to go there to check that out, and there's different tiers of involvement you can get. But that's, it's a good place to go. And if you are into my work and the stuff I'm making, it's just going to be a wealth of behind the scenes photos, videos, and tidbits from my movies. People want to check that out. I've also been putting up. I found like a million. Where are they? I got them right over here. But like mini DV tapes from shooting Manborg. Uh, so like I've just been ripping. I have this whole setup going where I'm ripping that footage and I'm cutting together little clips of like raw green screen footage of the Astron guys just like messing around on green screen. So yeah, I've got a lot of stuff that I've been sitting on. I got hard drives and hard drives full of stuff that I'm going to be putting up on there, partially as a way to just catalog it for myself, but also I want to share it with people. I think people should check it out, and it's a fun way to support me as I'm, trying to get my movies going, because being an indie filmmaker does not make a ton of money.
I will make sure to put a link in the description and even on the screen for that. So everybody head over to everybody head over to Kostanski's Crypt and get some behind the scenes stuff. Well, Steven, again, thank you so much for joining us today, and I just hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, you too, man. And I hope I get to check out your store in the near future sometime. I'm sure I will buy a lot of stuff. So, very excited.